Good morning.
Happy Monday.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Happy Monday.
Okay, cool. Happy Monday.
And I'm putting in the link right now into Happy Monday. Into Passion. Hold on one second.
Okay, no worries. It's kind of cool. I didn't know you could live stream it directly to YouTube like this. Excuse me. Sorry.
All right. So Passion is good to go. And let me do one more thing. Let's see here. Scan. Gotta make sure I share my screen. 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. There it is. This one. Oh. All right. Where is Gmail when you need it? There we go. And one more. Actually.
Pause that for a second.
One and 2 and 3. And let's see the other thing that we need here, if we need it at all. Scan. Perfect. All right, it is time. So let's go ahead and get this thing popping. All right, Marcus, I don't see Hank on here. Do you? Oh, I do see him. There he is.
You're the only host here.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, let's go ahead and let everyone in. We're going to go ahead and start recording as well. And I'm going to share my screen with you guys in a few moments to make sure you guys can see everything.
I see some new faces. Good morning, all new faces.
So looks like the stream is on about a 2-minute delay.
All right, so let's go ahead and share. All right, can you guys see this generic website up so far? So good.
Yeah, we're good on Zoom.
All right, cool. All right, so here's what we're going to do. So today we're going to do things a little bit different. I'm going to quickly go over a seller financing deal so anyway, for the last couple of months, I've done a couple of seller financing deals for myself, and then also like just for basic consulting and deal structuring with people. I'm going to go over at least one of those deals with you guys right now, based on how much time we have. Okay. If we have more time, then I'll go over more. I do want to make you guys aware or remind you guys that under Asset Builders Club, under the learning section, we do have creative financing, like a full course on creative financing. So let me show you guys that real quick. And I feel like it's important to show you guys this so that you know where to find it. Okay. Because like knowing is half the battle. Right, Hank?
Yes, I was on mute.
Okay. All right. So for those of you guys who are part of the apprenticeship, I believe you guys have access to creative financing real estate. Basically, you go to learn, you scroll down, and you click on creative financing real estate. Marcus, so what happened was we had a seminar, I think it was like over for a weekend. And what Marcus did for us is that he cut them down into sections. And then also, like, so we talk about like apartment buying, et cetera, buying homes, all using creative financing, basically not using any of your own money. And then there's a workbook that comes along with it, which you guys can see here. This workbook that comes with this, it's like fill in the blank. It is step by step. But what it also does for you is it gives you the exact tools and contracts that I use to do those actual deals. Okay. And then it shows you the deals with their actual names completed so that when it's your turn to actually do the deals, right? All this stuff is hyperlinked. But when it's your turn to actually do the deal, you know exactly what to put in the blanks. So just as an example, I use this one a lot because it's one of the first ones. This is a deal considered to be a nice area off of Kessler Boulevard, which is a desirable area within the inner city of Indianapolis. And so when you click on the picture, it takes you to the actual property. It shows you the condition the property was in when the deal took place. Then we do this for each deal, by the way. And so then we also give you the pictures and the deal scenario, as well as the contract that was used. And then so that you know how to actually do the contract yourself. Then we actually give you the contract so you can use it. Okay. Makes sense? All good? Everyone's cool there? A lot clearer?
Question?
Yes, no, maybe so. Hello?
Question?
Yes.
Okay.
Leland, if one of the apprentices finds such a deal and has some reluctance, some hesitancy, some questions, some fear, some anguish, some whatever, as long as they're in the apprenticeship program, they can still reach out to you, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what this is for.
All right. Yeah, I hope they got that.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. That's what this is for. So like what should happen because of the economy that we're in right now is that you guys should begin to see a lot more creative financing, seller financing, buyer financing, whatever the term people want to use. You should start seeing a lot more non-traditional deals taking place across the entire real estate landscape. That includes residential and that includes commercial. The one that we're going to go over today is a commercial property, but please keep in mind that the mindset and basically the structuring of the deal is still the same. Okay. All righty, cool. We're good there. All right, so let's get into the actual deal. All right, so the first thing that we'll do is we'll go through the paperwork of it, and then we'll go through the psychology of the actual deal. All right, so the paperwork that you guys are looking at right now, it is showing an agreement to purchase a building for $850,000. And then it is showing that there is $100,000 that is actually being placed as a quote unquote down payment. There's a penalty in which that if there is like an unpaid balance, there's like a 5% penalty. All right. There's also an additional late charge of $500 for each uninstalled payment. Okay. Now, everything else that you guys see in here is basically pretty standard. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that I added to this particular agreement was that it was assignable. So this would actually give either party either a way out or a way for them to go ahead and earn money in the process, okay, by making this agreement assignable. For just basic understanding, for those who don't really know what that means, when we're wholesaling, one of the things that allows us to make money in the wholesaling process is our ability to assign the agreements. So we can assign something to a buyer that can basically take our place, or even a seller in that case, but assign something to a buyer to take our place in the agreement so that we're able to actually make money, aka an assignment fee, right, or a wholesale fee from it. So there are additional provisions that I added because in the negotiation process with both parties, it was a little icky. And so it was basically, one pastor to another pastor. And so one of the head butting points was that one pastor still wanted to have access to the building until the other pastor fully paid off the building. And so that was part of what had to go into the actual agreement itself. Okay. Any questions about the agreement? So far, this is an agreement where it's a purchase for $850,000. The purchase is due on the I want to say the 2026, and then it's $4,100 a month as far as a payment. Any questions so far on the actual paperwork?
Real quickly, then. So with that contract, we could use vice versa if we were selling or buying.
Yes, you can use this same contract if you're selling or buying.
Okay.
And you guys will also have access to this exact template. Obviously you will just change it for yourself. At the bottom, this is kind of something that, as you can see, I hand wrote this in after the negotiations kept going back and forth. So what ended up happening was that one of the guys, give me 1 second, hold on. All right. So what happened was that one of the pastors said, "Hey, listen, Leland, do you think that you could help me get finance to build a multi-purpose center and gymnasium?" I was like, "Okay." And he was like, "Well, I want to go ahead and actually split the partials of the church and actually build one on the back end." And so I said, "Well, if you're doing that, you have to at least make sure that the other party is aware that when you're doing that, and that because if you're just think about it. If you guys have a home and you're going to sell your home on, let's say, seller financing, but then your plan is to take, let's say, the backyard of the house and build another house. One of the things that you have to do is you're gonna have to have it as separate partials. That way there can be a separate address. And then there has to be a way for someone who lives in that back area, essentially, to be able to access their own property. That could be a driveway, et cetera, et cetera. So part of that was basically what was put into the bottom of that via writing. Okay. Any other questions about the actual just the papering of the agreement before we go into the psychology of it? Okay. All right. I didn't hear anyone, so I'm going to go to the whiteboard now. Okay. So seller financing is really my favorite thing to do with real estate, because a lot of times seller financing really has nothing to do with the property itself. A lot of times seller financing has everything to do with the egos of the people involved. Okay, the egos of the people involved. So like when I told you guys before we started, I said, hey, listen, right now is a fantastic time for people to begin to look for seller financing opportunities. Can you guys tell me why right now is a great time for people to start looking for financing opportunities?
Interest rates are up.
We got interest rates increasing. Perfect. What else we have?
People
Homes
not
not selling
getting
this in
what
the
they
market.
are asking.
Okay. I heard sellers asking more, right? Or wanting more maybe?
Or people not qualifying for a standard loan.
Yep. Buyers not being able to qualify. All right. And who said someone else was saying something?
Homes just sitting on the market and not selling.
All right. Homes sitting on market, right? All right. And then we got realtors who are delisting, right? So we got a lot of things going on here. And although there's always going to be a logic piece on why someone doesn't do what they do, right? Because these are all the logic, right? Of why something didn't, why they're doing this. The emotion behind all these is that, in my opinion, what I'm seeing is that it's a FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. What do you guys think that fear of missing out is?
Is it almost the same thing, like instead of buyer's remorse, seller's remorse?
We're having buyers. Well, we're having some buyer's remorse and we're having some seller's remorse. So let's check this out. All right. So just as an example, just so you guys can get an idea of what that means. So right now you got 30% of people who bought in 2022 who have buyer's remorse. All right. You also have about, and there's another statistic I saw the other day that said about on average, the people who have purchased homes during 2022 have lost 13% of their equity. Right. And then the buyers who want to buy, they're not able to buy at the moment. So now they're upset. Right. So the emotion that that we're talking about is we have all these people that feel like they missed out on an opportunity. We got sellers who saw their next door neighbor be able to quote unquote pocket $100 grand and relocate to, wherever. And then we have buyers who saw their friends qualify to buy a home in, wherever that had a substantial, smaller down payment. All right. Does all that make sense? So it's despite what people tell you about the logic, it's not logic at all. It's just they had a fear of missing out. They're upset that they're basically upset that they've missed out on being able to take advantage of other people. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, cool. So when we're talking about the building, whether the numbers were $100,000, $50,000, or $1 million, the psychology is that one or both parties feel as though that they're missing out on something. So with it being a religious building, most religious buildings during the pandemic were not selling because during the pandemic, what was taking place?
You couldn't have church.
You couldn't have church, so you had less attendance. You had less attendance, and therefore you had less
money in the coffers.
Thank you, sir. You had less money. So you now are missing out on the money that you typically would have based on your attendance and based on people basically giving their tithes. All right. All right.
Yes.
So, and I don't know what it is about today, but for some reason, it's like I'm having the hardest time with all this noise in the background. All right. So that became an opportunity. So if someone wanted to capitalize on, let's say, certain types of commercial buildings, now would be the time. If you guys are looking at the market, you'll notice that Goldman Sachs and other investment banks are now looking to liquidate a lot of their commercial buildings. Why? Because during the pandemic, people were not occupying commercial buildings. That included office spaces, that included churches, et cetera, et cetera. So now would be a good time to present to many of those sellers, those owners of office buildings, that you have an opportunity for them. Okay. Now, the way the psychology behind this is, it's obviously the fear of missing out. We then have to talk with the seller and figure out what is it that they're most afraid of. What is it that they're most concerned of? And most sellers, with real estate involved, they're normally afraid of losing the property in general. So one of the first things that we always ask them is, what's the break even? So the break even a lot of times includes a mortgage payment. It will include utilities. And in this case, if you have like a staff, whatever, for a church, it may include maybe like a stipend or some type of payments for a pastor. Okay. Now, in this example, the mortgage is actually about $2,000. Okay. So the mortgage is actually about $2,000. So the way when I was talking to the seller, the way that it was sold was, hey, X amount of dollars down will actually buy you time. And then being able to still have some type of consistent payment throughout will still be able to allow you to pay your needed bills. The added benefit was being able to have that particular seller still occupy a certain portion of the building and being able to occupy the sanctuary on a specific schedule. By him occupying the sanctuary at a certain schedule, he's still able to receive, income from, for his church, as far as like tithes and things like that. Okay. So in actuality, he's still able to have the normal functions, but as his congregation's, attendance and population are getting lower, he's not having to deal with more of the headache of having the building and the building's expenses. Okay, make sense or not really? Doesn't make sense or what? Let me know where you guys are at, so I know if I have to go deeper or not.
It's making sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does make sense.
All right, cool. Okay, cool. All right, so just let this sink in again. Commercial buildings that you guys are seeing, even down to residential buildings that you guys are seeing, there's a huge opportunity that we're all seeing or were available to us based on the ripples of what has happened with the pandemic. All right. So the ripples of the pandemic, again, is that we'll have commercial buildings that are sitting, that are vacant. We have homeowners that basically have equity that has been eaten up based on interest rates. And so now is a great time for people to begin to buy properties or buy opportunities using seller financing, in which you can actually use little to no money. Okay. Now, the way that this can transfer into a residential deal, for those of you guys who want to get into having having residential properties as rentals using seller financing, it will look like this. This entire square, this orange square, represents the value of the property. And for simple math, we're just going to use $100,000 for simple math. Okay. So The next square that I'm going to draw will be colored, let's say, fuchsia, pink, whatever. And this square is going to represent the value that the property is at or the market is at right now for the same property. Okay. Keep in mind that nothing has changed. It is the same exact house. It is not less square footage or, it's not a better or worse neighborhood or area. It is the exact same property, exact same location. It is merely just one, maybe 2 years later. Okay. So in our economy right now, if a property dropped about 15%, let's say 10%, then that would mean that this property is now worth, the market is telling us that the property is now worth $90,000. If or when this person attempts to get the highest and best offer, they are going to go to a realtor. That realtor is probably going to stretch his or her comps as far back as maybe 6 months, maybe even 9 months, depending on, how greedy the realtor is. Okay. So when the realtor does this, they're going to come with the idea that, hey, we should sell this property for $100,000. As you all know, because of the interest rates, the same buyer 2 years ago that could have bought this home for $100,000 is different now. That same buyer that has the same qualifications, they're now only able to buy almost twice, basically. Okay. And we'll just do this very, very quickly for anyone who's not really sure what I'm talking about. We'll show you guys what it looks like on a mortgage calculator.
I don't touch my peach.
All right, so here we go. One and one. I'm going to show you guys an interest rate of a 3 real quick, or maybe a 2, since people like those. Wow. Okay. So here's what this looks like. Even on $100,000 home, 2 years ago, about maybe a 2 or maybe a 3% interest rate, as you guys see here, for $100,000. And this is just the mortgage itself, doesn't include taxes, doesn't include insurance. Okay. Their payment would be about $401. Carried on to today, someone who has, let's say, the exact same credit score, it is no longer $400 they're looking to pay a month. It is $700. So if we were to change this to the average home in America, which is $300,000, it's a big difference. So we got $1,200 here. We got $2,000 here. So it's basically double. Okay. So now,
Leland, can we add
Yes,
a little
sir.
bit more pain to that?
Yes, please.
I was checking last week, the average price of a house in the US in the late part of 22 was $426,000.
All right, let's see what that equates to real quick, just for example. So right now, 426, you'll pay basically $3,000 a month. And then if it was last year, you'll pay $1,700 a month. So it's still, again, yeah, it's basically like $1,200 more, right? Almost double. Okay. So now what happens is this. The realtor says, hey, let's sell it on the market. And so they're probably at the 70-day mark and the property has not sold. Again, nothing has changed about the property. It's not a better property. The area hasn't changed, nothing like that. What has changed has been the interest rates and the fact that the government is no longer restricting supply. Okay. So it's been on the market for 70 days. And eventually, the realtor will pressure the owner to lower his or her price. Now, one thing that we have to keep in mind is when the government was giving out loans, not government, excuse me, when people were buying the last 2 years and they would buy a home, let's say at $100,000, they would only need about a 3% down payment, give or take. So that means that the loan for said property is basically at right here, which is going to be about $96,000. Okay, so that's the loan. So the realtor begins to notice that there are properties that are selling. However, the ones that are selling at, let's say, 70 grand, or they're selling at, let's say 80 grand, or maybe even 85,000. And so the realtor is trying to encourage, they want to encourage them to sell it at 85,000, 70,000, because the realtor's like, listen, a sale is better than no sale. But then they have to tell the realtor, listen, I can't sell my home at 85,000. I can't sell my home at 70,000 because I happen to owe 96,000. And this is where you come in. What you want to be able to do is you want to reach out to those particular realtors who have had their properties on the market for 70 plus days and let them know that you are willing, that you're looking for properties where the seller has little to no equity. And if they are willing to give you referrals, that you're willing to also pay them in the process. Okay. Any questions on that part so far?
I have a question about paying the realtor.
Yes.
So if we're doing seller financing, that means we're not bringing all of that money to the table at close. How much money does the realtor make? And so is our end buyer paying that fee?
Yep. So we'll answer your first part. How much money will the realtor make? That is going to be negotiable because if it was an actual sale where the realtor is still representing the seller themselves will have to pay the realtor a commission. And that could be, again, 2%, 3%, maybe even 6%. We all know that the seller doesn't have equity or the money to pay the realtor. So the realtor would actually have to release the seller from their listing agreement. The second part of your question is how much can the realtor get paid? So we could pay the realtor, again, $2,000. We could pay the realtor maybe 1% of the overall purchase price. But I would not advise or recommend you guys try to pay a realtor 6%, because what's going to happen on the back end, which I'll get to that in a few moments. But I would not advise you guys to say to the realtor, hey, listen, you can still get your 6% commission. That's not going to always be the case, because you still have to negotiate with the buyer on the other end to see how much the buyer is willing to actually put down as a down payment. If that buyer is only willing to put down, let's say, $5 grand, well, that 6% on $100,000 is $6 grand. So either you're paying the extra grand, or the seller is not getting anything. So that's why I would suggest you saying to the realtor, hey, I can make sure you still get your 6%. What you can say is I can still make sure you get paid. I just don't know exactly how much that will be yet. I need to still look at the property and run some more numbers. Okay. Who else has a question before we go into the buyer part? All right. Now, if you're wondering where to find these people are not hard to find. Okay. So this is going to be anyone who has recently had a property that was listed and they basically took the listing down. This would be anyone who has a property on the market for over 70 days. This is anyone who has a property on the market that has lowered or reduced the price, somewhat. It doesn't have to be significantly, but it has to mean they lowered their price. Okay. So you just want to keep in mind that the opportunities are out there. Okay. The opportunities are out there. The only reason that you wouldn't find these opportunities is if you're not looking for them. What you can also do, and it's something that I've done before the pandemic though. I would reach out to realtors that I would meet. Let's say I meet a realtor at a meetup group or on Facebook, and I would let that person know, hey, listen, John, if you ever come across any deals where there's not a lot of equity and where you can't make any money in the process, right? Then all you got to do for me is just refer me the deal. And as long as the numbers work out, I'll be willing to pay you $1,000. And the reason the realtor will do that is because he or she wouldn't be able to make money off of that particular seller anyway, because there's not enough equity in the deal for them to get paid their commission. Okay. All right. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the buyer real quick. I think we're good there.
So you're saying is creative finance better for us?
It's not that it's better, it's just that there will be more opportunities though. There will be more opportunities. And they're not going to look like how you think they're going to look either. So Miss Johnson, who has never, Miss Johnson, who has only known about selling a property through a local realtor, she has no idea what seller financing is. So what this will look like for most of you guys is you will make your initial offer, okay? And then you'll circle back the day, an hour later, a day later, whatever, but make sure you circle back and then you offer them the seller financing or see if they have any interest in seller financing. It's not that seller financing is necessarily better, but you should have a lot more opportunities for seller financing, because most sellers right now, they want a price that was only conducive during the pandemic. Does that make sense for everyone or not really?
Makes sense.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So it's not that it's better. It's just that you should see a lot more of these opportunities. With it being a seller financing deal, subject to lease option, whatever else, all the agreements that we have for those, they are assignable. You can still make your wholesale fee if it's a lease option. You can still make your wholesale fee if it is a subject to property. You can still make your wholesale fee if it's a master lease agreement. You can still make your money. So just don't think that the only way to make money is by having like a cash offer, okay? Let the seller know, like, listen, I may be able to get you closer to that number that you want, but we might have to do something a little bit more creative, okay? All right, so let's talk about the actual buyers real quick. And these buyers are, again, they're easier to find. One of the easiest ways to find buyers is to actually look at mortgage loan officers. So I'm going to go to Zillow real quick, share my screen with you guys. And we're going to look for some mortgage loan officers. It might take a while, but let's see what happens. All right, so just real quick, I'm gonna go back. You guys see right now, I'm on Zillow, okay? There's an area here that says buy, rent, sell, and home loans. I'm hovering over home loans right here, and I'm able to look at mortgage lenders. Okay. So if, for example, if Johnny, if Johnny and his wife wanted to participate in the current economy and they wanted to buy that property like real quick, they would have had to already begin their loan process a month or 2 months in advance. Okay. Now, what would happen is as they get closer going through that process, they're going to find out how much money they're going to have to pay. And because of the interest rates, they might find out that it might cost more money. Right now, it costs more money to own a home than it is to rent, as of right now, in certain markets. I'll put it that way. So in certain markets right now, it costs more money to buy and pay a mortgage than it does to rent a property. Okay. So they go through the process and they find out like, oh my gosh, these rates are so high. that it's more expensive for us to own a home right now, let's just keep renting. Okay. So what you can do is you want to look for those people, right? Those people who were in the mortgage loan process and they chose to drop out for one reason or the other, right? It could be because the rates are too high, could be because of they don't qualify, whatever it is. So again, we're at Zillow, we hovered over home loans, we clicked on mortgage lenders, we scroll down, and we're looking for what's called a mortgage lender directory. Okay. What we can do is we can actually, if you wanted to, you can call 5 people a day. And these are people that they work, they want you to call them. Like it's not out of the ordinary for someone to call them. It's like you calling a realtor. Like a realtor, realtors want to be found, and most realtors want to do deals and they want to answer the phone. All right. Because they're paid off commissions. Mortgage loan officers, for the most part, are also paid off commissions. Like they may have a small amount of a base, but then they're normally paid off commissions. So what you want to do is you could, for example, call 5 mortgage loan officers and just present them with a question of, hey, Josh, this is Leland. I have a couple, I'm looking to speak with someone who's getting people qualified because I have a couple of properties, a couple of homes in which I am willing to do some type of buyer or seller financing. Now, what's really cool about this is during Dodd-Frank, the Dodd-Frank was passed, law was passed, I don't know, 10 years ago or so. And Dodd-Frank requires that if you're doing more than one, if you own a property and you are the quote unquote lender for a seller financing deal, Dodd-Frank requires that if you're doing more than 3 a year of those, that you need to have a mortgage loan officer do the initial underwriting. And what that person will do is they will collect documents from the prospective buyer of the home. They will collect documents such as their credit score or credit report, their income statements, or like their W-2, and they're going to do like a calculation to see like what they can afford monthly, like with monthly expenses. Okay. And then they're gonna put that into a formula basically and into a packet. And at that point, they are then going to say, hey, Leland, the client that wants to buy your home for seller financing, they're not, to be honest with you guys, they're not going to say necessarily whether he or she can afford it, but they are going to say like, hey, here's where that person's at. Now, the reason that this is being done because of Dodd-Frank is because, unfortunately, before COVID, so probably like in the early 2000s, we had some people that would take a home. So again, this is a house, and this is the roof. We would have some people in the 2000s who would take a home that was probably worth like $40,000. Okay. And they would sell that home that's worth $40,000 on a land contract to someone else for, and this is like no exaggeration, but like for $500,000. They would have someone maybe, pay like 20 grand down. And then the remaining $480,000 was basically interest payments. Okay. So people abuse that, as people abused selling their home at high prices during COVID. And so the government stepped in 2010 and they gave the Dodd-Frank Act. All right. And that is that's the Wikipedia link that Marcus put into the chat. Okay. The Zoom chat. So what you got to do is, if you own, keyword is own, if you own more than 3 properties, and you are now the lender and you're selling the property to someone else where they are the borrower, you have to have a mortgage, an approved mortgage loan officer collect the documents on your behalf for that person. Okay. Now, I don't know if you guys own properties and all that stuff, but if you're wholesaling the properties, here's what you got to do. All you have to do when you're wholesaling the properties is make the connection. You guys hear me on that? All you got to do when you're wholesaling the properties is you make the connection. So you would talk to Josh. Josh understands that whether you're getting a mortgage through his company, let's say MJW Financial, or whether you're getting a mortgage through yourself by creating one, that Josh can still make money on the underwriting fees regardless, because he's a licensed loan officer. Okay. So when you reach out to Josh, he's like, yeah, if you have anyone who he's gonna be like, yeah, if you have anyone who is looking to do seller financing, I'll be happy to overlook, do the initial overlook or underwriting of the documents. And I'll charge, $500 for it. It's like, great. Then he would say, well, Josh, if you happen to have any clients that are in the process of looking for a mortgage, but for some reason they get turned down, maybe one of my properties might suit them, and I could talk to them about buying one of my properties via seller financing. So it's mutually beneficial. Josh will make money on both. Does that make sense, guys? And there are people right now on the market that are in the process of getting qualified for a mortgage, only to find out that it's going to be too expensive for them to afford it. Okay. Any questions on that part? All right, I'm gonna take that as a no. Okay. All right. Is there anything that you guys?
No, Leland, sorry. It's just that I'm on my phone. I'm just getting to my office and my phone was not allowing me. So as far as when you're dealing with these brokers, mortgage brokers, do you want them to focus on a specific area because of the hedge funds, or does it matter where the mortgagee might be looking for? In other words, should we tell them, hey, listen, I'm only working in Indianapolis or Georgia, or do
you want to just make? That's a good question. So you want to make sure that it's going to be in the state that they're licensed.
Yeah, because you get a lot of these mortgage brokers that are like national, and they're able to work national, so they can give you stuff from anywhere. So, I mean, I don't want to bring in people if we don't have inventory, right? Or am I supposed to, let's say they do, he's like, yeah, you know what? I got someone in Arizona. I got 2 people in Maine. Would I go ahead and grab that and then email you guys and say, hey, listen, we might have a potential, but do we have any inventory before I reach out in those specific areas, cities, states, whatever? Because then, obviously when we get their information, we want to call them. Obviously, the first thing that these people are going to want is, one, okay, where's the property located and can I take a look at it, kind of deal, right?
Yep. So keep in mind, like for us internally, that the thing that we look at is the Midwest and the Southeast. However, you guys, again, if you guys can look and go anywhere that you want to look and go. If you guys want to go to, for example, California, go for it. But the ones that we focus on are the Midwest and Southeast. The seller financing deals are not going to be deals that hedge funds are going to buy. The reason that hedge funds are not going to buy these seller financing deals is because the mortgage balances typically are going to be above that 70% threshold. So when these transactions happen between the seller and the buyer, these are typically going to be private transactions. It's going to be a landlord. The seller, for example, could be a landlord who has had enough. And then the actual buyer could be a hardworking mother who would rather go ahead and pay $5,000 or $10,000 up front to be able to lease the home for the next 4 years and have the ability to buy it at a set price. So these are primarily going to be mom and pop transactions. I don't know any hedge funds that specifically look for properties that have, that are leveraged higher than 70% of the LTV.
Now let me ask you this, and that was going to be one question. One, does the hedge funds offer that, which obviously you just answered. The second one, I back in the late 90s, early 2000, I used to sell privately held mortgages. There was companies that would buy the note, buy the paper.
Mm-hmm. And there still are.
And okay, would we be, so because I want to have an understanding, if we're going to do seller financing, can you give me a better understanding? If I find someone that wants to sell their home and is willing to do seller finance, okay, then we obviously, now we have to find an end buyer then for that property. Because we wouldn't start, right? Are we going to go ahead? And this is, I guess, a question that maybe everybody has on their mind. Would we still go ahead and try to do the seller finance? If the deals make sense, let's say we go into that deal calculator and do everything, and then go on the template and put all the information. Is that something that we would still move through, even if we didn't have an end buyer?
Okay, so if you speak with a seller that is okay with seller financing, what you would do? Let's see here what page this is on. Hold on one second. Show it to you guys. So let's say you are speaking with a seller and they mention that they're open to some type of seller financing. So for example, this is a non-binding agreement, right? And so you guys can see this exact same workbook, okay? Again, like I said, every screenshot is a document. You just click on it. So you come across a seller who's interested in some type of seller financing. You can use this document, and again, you see that it's assignable right here. So you can use this document to at least flesh out the initial terms of said agreement. And again, this is a one-pager. This is non-binding, okay? So you may speak, so let's get more specific. You may speak to that seller and he or she may say, you know what, if someone gives me, for example, if someone gives me $5 grand, 10 grand today, and they're willing to pay, market rent, then yeah, I'll be happy to do seller financing. And if they could buy it within 4 years, 48 months at the price of X, a fair price, they're like, yeah, I'll do it, right? So you would just fill that stuff in. And now what you would do is you would then go to the investor presentation or the offer calculator investor presentation and put the actual deal together and then begin to market it. The way to market seller financing deals, it's a lot easier when you're willing to speak with realtors, because the realtors involved already have access to people that are looking for homes. Like just like, let's be real. How many of us, let's be honest, how many of us either ourselves or we know of someone who has said, I don't want to buy a home for $500,000, but I would be willing to buy a home, if someone would allow me to put 10 grand or $15,000 down and I can still pay the mortgage, right? So what you would have to do is you would have to let the realtors know that that's something that you offer. And it's networking. Because realtors do have access to people that, reach out to them who quote unquote want to buy a house, but then come to find out they don't have a they don't have 40 grand for a down payment, but they do have 30 grand. Or they don't have 100 grand for a down payment, but they do have $10,000. Realtors do have people like that. They don't do anything with those particular leads, and you become an outsource for them. You also have the ability to go on Craigslist, and the same process of just putting the property on Craigslist. Again, as you guys know, I'm not a fan of like Facebook as much, but I would suggest that you pick up the phone or send a text message if you're afraid to call. But eventually you will have to talk to somebody. But pick up the phone and just speak to realtors, because not all realtors are the same. Like there are, give an example here. So like in the Indianapolis market, there are people that are like part of RE/MAX. And then there are smaller real estate brokerages where the broker they're making money off of lease agreements. They're making money off of land contracts. You don't know who those people are until you choose to actually network. But trust and believe me, there are some realtors that make majority of their income from leases. There are realtors that make majority of their income from land contracts. They're like those people actually exist. The stay-at-home mom, for example, the stay-at-home mom who sells like one property a year, she's not the person that you necessarily want to reach out to, or the father who works part-time, works part-time as a teacher, but also happens to sell, properties on the side. He's not necessarily the person that you want to speak to, but the person who, primarily makes money by leasing a property, absolutely. And there are realtors out there that basically make their income from leases. They make money from leases. 1,000 here, 500 there, 1,000 there, 500 there. So that person, yeah, absolutely would be a better route to get your property through, in my opinion, than a Facebook group or some other avenues. But Craigslist works as well, and of course you can always look at other investors too, because landlords will do it. Like for example, the property that Melissa did in her area of Texas, that was a subject to deal. That deal was not. It wasn't a cash deal. That was a subject to deal.
I have a question.
Okay.
So let's say, let's just use me for instance, because this is like real life scenario. There's a house that I've had my eye on for the longest time, and it's vacant. Like I pass it every single day on my drive to my daughter's school, and it's been vacant since before COVID. And I'm not in a position to buy at this particular moment, and I would love to present the owner with a lease, with this option to purchase and actually lease it from them. But let's say we do the rent to own lease for 4 years at a particular price that we both agree on. And this whole time I'm making repairs, I'm upgrading it and so forth. But when that time comes 4 years from now, and let's say property values for some reason have significantly dropped, and I cannot get the mortgage to at that time purchase it because they're still upside down, what happens then? Is it just like an investment where I'm going to end up risking the fact that I may not be able to purchase this home, or am I just overthinking this?
So no, you're not overthinking it at all. So okay, real quick. Whenever a rent to buy, the right term, at least the legal term, should be considered a lease option. So the lease allows someone to occupy the property legally. Okay. So as long as someone is paying the lease, they can't be, forcefully out. And then, just as an example, real quick, we have here where it says lease, and then it says the purchase. Okay, so I'm gonna hit the back button. We have on here lease agreements, actually, that if someone wanted to use, they could. Okay, we have lease agreements. Now, going to the option part. The option agreement gives you the ability to purchase at a set or a specific price within a certain specific time. You do, on the actual option agreement, you are given the ability to request what's called an extension. However, for most extensions, they will, well, most sellers at least, they'll extend something, but they'll extend something with the hopes of someone being willing to put forth additional money. And let me give you guys a real life example. Last week, let me see, when was it done? This agreement was done December 14th. So yeah, that was last week, I think. Yeah, last Monday. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, this was last week. So last week, I went to one of the pastors, and I said, hey, listen, right now, if I get you a mortgage for $800,000, as of right now, what's going to happen is your interest rate is going to be about 10 to 12%. And he was like, are you serious? I was like, yeah. I was like, so for your commercial loan, you might be looking at having a payment that's like $8,000, maybe even $10,000. I said, so what you should do right now is you want to think ahead. You never want to, like, when you're negotiating something, and let's say, for example, that lease option, if you guys agree to 48 days, do not wait until the 47th month or the 45th month to negotiate an extension. So like this, remember, this is the same exact deal that we went over earlier. The deal they have until like in the original agreement, they have until like the 26th to actually complete the purchase. I said to him, I said, listen, go to him now early and let's negotiate an extension, because interest rates for the next 2 years are going to be ridiculous. If we wait until the last month to negotiate, you have no leverage. But if you negotiate in advance, you're able to metaphorically buy yourself some time. So in this example here, we did an addendum to the original agreement, right? And that addendum was basically saying like, hey, listen, we're gonna need to have an extension of an additional 2 years. Okay, so to answer your question, Erica, what you want to be able to do is you want to, this is the rest of it. So it's saying like, hey, listen, the buyer will make an additional payment of 20 grand. Now I know you guys are like, dang, that's more money, but you gotta think in advance. Would you rather pay 20 grand, or would you rather pay some money today and buy an additional 24 months? That's 2 years. Or would you rather wait till your additional contract is up, and then the person doesn't give you an extension at all, and they just take back the property, right? So you got to think about, you got to be forward thinking. So in this example, it was the buyer will pay an additional 20 grand in exchange for 24-month extension of the original agreement of the purchase. This is offered because of blah, blah, the interest rates, right? Then I said, hey, let's also negotiate that instead of you paying that $4,100 a month, because you are paying money now today, negotiate that one down to $3,100 a month. Well, if you do the math, he wins because he's paying less of a payment. So again, to answer your question, Erica, you want to make sure that if you know, I'll say it like this: if you don't have all the money if you're doing a 4-year deal, if you don't have all the money by year 2, or if you know by year 1 you don't have all the money, make an extension. Ask for an extension. Ask for an additional 2 years. And then make sure that your agreement is assignable, because that means at the worst case scenario, you would be able to assign or give your deal to maybe another investor who might be willing to take your position or your spot in exchange for money. So that way you still make a benefit for yourself.
Right. Understood. Appreciate it.
All right. So the lease and the option are two different agreements. The option gives you the ability to purchase, and the option as the lease too. You can have the lease to where you can assign it, quote unquote, by making it a sublease, allowing you to sublet. That's how people are doing Airbnbs without owning the property. So that's what they're doing. Okay. It's just a sublease. And then the option, again, you can assign that option to someone else. Okay. All right. Any other questions that anyone else has that I can answer real quick in reference to seller financing with these deals?
So, Leland, going back, would we want to do the seller financing for ourselves, like as in the corporation of Lee-Chandler Enterprise, and then try to sell the note for a profit?
You can do it in your own company if you want. Yeah,
But no,
and so
then
to sell the
no,
note, yes.
Yeah, because the thing is that you have to completely close. So in other words, let's say we find a seller, we would have to completely pretty much close and then be able to sell the paper. So that means that we would either have to take over the payments or whatever, the cash off, whatever, that whole aspect. Is it something that you guys would be interested in? Because then I could also look for companies that do buy the paper and see at what their criteria is, and maybe we can also work that angle.
Mm-hmm. So
is that something?
Yes. So short answer is yes. Note. So I think, let me think about this. It may have been a month ago, but a month ago, I think in one of our morning meetings, we did go over how even if you're wholesaling, you could create like a second mortgage or an IOU with a buyer or a seller, really. But you could create a second mortgage, okay? And that's what we have right here. That's this document here. So I could create a second, and I've done this, where I've done a deal where the buyer, didn't have all the money to pay the amount that I was going to double close on. And so what I did instead was I created a second mortgage in the amount of $80,000. It was for an apartment deal. So instead of me getting like the $96,000 cash or so on that transaction, I received $16,000 in cash up front, and then $80,000 was as a second mortgage against the property. And that's what this is here. So I give you guys the actual template and the thing that I use, okay? Then what happened was, because it was a mortgage, I was able to take that mortgage to a company like Evergreen or like PHH or SLS, and they're able to be what's called a mortgage servicing company. What you could do is after the borrower makes one or two payments, you could then sell the mortgage itself, because it's an asset. You could then sell that mortgage, that note, to other investors. And so, for example, let's see here. Let's go to youtube.com. Hold on one second. So I don't know what's going to pop up. Hold on one second. My kids be on here. All right, youtube.com. Go to our thing. All right. So we might have it up here. Let me see. I feel like we do have it up here though. Okay, here we are. So in this, I'm gonna pause it. But in this, dang, Hank, that's a crazy freeze frame for them to give you. But
how dare you?
Yeah, that was crazy. Okay, so in this video here, this is someone that we have in our network where, well, Hank, I'll let you explain. Hank, what does this lady do, and what does her business do, and her colleagues?
They buy mortgages. They buy and sell mortgages. Okay.
So to answer your question, Jimmy, yeah, like the short answer is yeah. Like people before the pandemic, before all of us had this conversation, there are people that for a living buy and sell notes the same way that some people buy and sell properties and wholesale properties. People buying notes. All right. And so what would happen in this example that I gave you guys here for the one that's 80 grand, when I sell, let's say I sell that note to Jasmine, for example, Jasmine is not going to pay me 80 grand for the note. She might pay me 40 grand for the note. But for me, it's like, well, hell, it's 40 grand. It's cash now. She'll buy it for 40 grand and she'll keep it with the expected, or the FMV, expected value of 80 grand, right? So she's going to collect interest on it, et cetera, et cetera. But then she deals with a lot more. She does private mortgages, of course, but she also deals with like Wells Fargo and some of their other bank managers. So she may reach out to one of her connections at Bank of America, just hypothetically, and she might do a larger swap or something, right? If my mortgage is really up to snuff, okay? So long story short, yes, there are people who buy the notes. And that's why I think it was like a month ago, I feel like we had this conversation. I said, you could build your own retirement portfolio just if you chose to wholesale 4 properties in which you made 4 properties into a mortgage, and you could put it into your IRA. I think we talked about that. You could put it into your IRA, and you're able to gain that money tax-free. I know, but I know y'all don't watch it, so that's probably why you guys don't know. But yeah, we went over that in detail as far as the companies to use to do that and how to do it. And again, there are tons of companies that do buy notes. And so in this downturn, or quote unquote downturn in the economy, these companies that are buying notes or buying mortgages, as you guys might say, they're looking for opportunities. So even if Jimmy, if you didn't have a quote unquote, so what you have to do is obviously you have to have a buyer, but once that rent to buy person, right, follows through, if you wanted to, you can go ahead and make more money by actually assigning the note. Because remember, this mortgage is created out of paper. It's created out of you speaking or saying something. Okay. All right, cool. All right, any other questions? I think we're good. No. All right, cool. Marcus, was there something you wanted to add? I know you were unmuted.
Yeah, we got a couple things. So for anybody that has not filed their weekly report, please go ahead and do so. I'll be checking those tomorrow. The next batch of Zillow leads should go out tomorrow as well.
All right, cool.
Leland, I was wrapping up a call from my job when we first opened up the Zoom.
Okay.
So can you show me where I could find the creative finance? Because I just went on there and wasn't able to find it.
Okay. All right. So, all right, you'll click on, so from home, I click on learn, and then I scroll down to this area, which says creative financing.
Okay.
If you still can't find it, just like send Marcus an email and he'll be able to look in the back system. But you click on that, and then Marcus has broken these down into segments, like where to find deals. You can do small and large apartment deals, all that stuff. And then the documents are all within the workbook. And that's what we're looking at here. That has the workbook attached to it.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
All right. Cool. Anyone else have any questions? Any questions? Comments or concerns?
Got a comment.
Yes, sir.
As the apprentice are going out and finding potential properties, and you're looking for someone to take pictures and of the property and things of this sort, and some of you are contacting me to help you to find someone. Let me unsaddle myself. I gotta teach you how to fish today. If you go to Craigslist for the city that you're looking for and put in handyman services, you should be able to find someone in that particular city that will provide the service of taking pictures. Let me tell you why that's important. We lost an apprentice about a month ago because she had a property that she was trying to get sold or purchased, however you want to categorize it. She was contacting me to find a handyman to take pictures, or a person to take pictures. In the timing between that she was setting up with the buyer and the time that I was setting up with someone to take the pictures, never synchronized. So if you're contacting the person to take pictures and you're talking to the seller, you can better negotiate that spacing of time, and you won't get frustrated with me because I didn't respond to your text or your email in a fashion that was appropriate for you. So just go to Craigslist.com and put in the city that you're looking for, and then search for a handy person or a general contractor or anyone else that would get you the pictures that you need. Then you're doing it and you don't have to worry about me. Okay?
And just real quick, for anyone who's like, well, I didn't know that I could do that, or you didn't tell me. When you go to learn, so from home, you click on learn, you go to your first 10K wholesaling, which is right here. There's an area here that you can, on your own, I think we have some videos that will show you on how to find handyman.
Day 9, like lesson 4, I think.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. So right here, just in case, so we have like a repair worksheet. And so what we advise you guys to do is to download or click on the worksheet and then send this exact worksheet to the handyman or the repair person. Okay. And you can let them know the talking points. So like I give you guys, one second. I give you guys some talking points. Okay. I give you guys some talking points on what to say. So if you're afraid to talk to the contractor, I'll give you some talking points of what to say to them. But then you're just going to, I'll show you exactly how to find them, how to go on Craigslist as well, how to find those individuals, as you can see right here. And then basically you just text or call them, and that's it. So you guys, so this is here for you. Again, I would suggest like
Day 5, I think it was day 4. I'm looking. I had watched it, and it shows you did a video where to actually find the expired listings, which would be helpful for what you just showed us.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just real quick, and I want to be honest, there is nothing, I don't hold anything back from you guys. Like everything that I use everything that is within this app. So the app itself, like I use the app myself. Okay, so like we're not holding anything back. You have to be willing to at least go through it. If you're investing your time, your money for it, at least, please, like, just go through it. So this is broken down into 9 days, and just read it and watch it. So that's all I'll say on that part.
Thank you so much.
All right, I guess that is it. So Ken, I know that you and I have a call scheduled right now, so I'm going to call you now. I'm also going I'm going to go ahead and take my daughter to the restroom real quick, and then I'll give you a shout, Kent. And Marcus, I'll make you the host, so you're able to exit out.
All right. Let's see. I think we've already covered everything that we need to go over for like updates and everything this week. As usual, if you guys have any questions, you can always reach me at marcus@lee-chandler.com. Hank, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, again, I just hope people will show a certain degree of grace and patience when they're dealing with you, Leland, and me. We've got a number of individuals that are in the program, and everybody, when they reach out to us, it's an urgent call on their part. And we don't want you to be frustrated and think that we don't care or we're being non-responsive. Just give us a little grace. We'll get back to you. We really, really will. Okay.
Okay,
I have a question.
go for it.
Do we pay for the contractor or does the programs to take pictures?
If you send us an invoice, we can cover the cost for it. Usually we're looking for somebody that's going to cost like about $50 or so to take the pictures.
Okay,
Remember, we don't actually need someone that's like, we do not need a licensed contractor to do this. It's like to do repairs or something we would, but just to walk around the property and take pictures of anything that looks, unusual, anybody can do that. It's like you gotta pick somebody out on Uber or something and ask them to go take pictures and just tell them that, hey, you'll give them a big tip if they go in the house and take the pictures.
okay,
Uber might not be a good example because I don't know if that violates their contract with the company, but you get my point. Anybody
Yeah.
can walk through, use their camera, use the camera on their phone to either take a video of the property as they walk through it, or 3 to 4 pictures of every room.
got it.
Again, we're wanting just like a picture of each wall, and focusing on anything that looks damaged or abnormal, and then a couple pictures of the outside with a good picture of the front, so we can put that in the marketing thing.
Okay, doke. Thanks.
And
Perfect for a
Marcus,
college student trying to make money for the weekend.
That'll work too.
yeah.
It's like literally anybody with a smartphone can do it now. I mean, hell, we can do Polaroids if they've got one of those, but
Not the dreaded Polaroids.
that would probably get more expensive. Those cost quite a bit. Anyways, any other questions?
Marcus, you again, the key point that you mentioned is that someone has to send an invoice. This is a business. We got to track all of that. People want to be paid in apps and things. Come on, we just need, it could be an email saying, hey, you owe me $75 or $50 for XYZ. We need something hard copy to put into the system to have it to generate the payment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can still use apps to pay them and stuff. We just need to have them send us some kind of note or a receipt or something to say, hey, this is the services rendered. This is the person that rendered the service. This is the account they want the money paid to.
Okay, doke.
Then for the pictures, it's going to be pretty much self-evident if they've done the work, because they'll send us a Google Drive link that's got all the pictures in it. If it's some other kind of service, we would have to contact you guys to make sure, or to verify that they did perform the work for you as they said, and then move forward.
Okay,
Again, if you can't find somebody for cheap, give us send us a message and we will look into it, see if we can find somebody for you.
okay, doke.
Again, this is not skilled labor or anything. It should be very, very cheap to hire somebody. It's like 30 minutes work using a camera. So
And I have another question. I have a lady that's gonna send pictures today. She's gonna take them. But you say you start out with the offer. Which offer would you start with before you circle back around to approach them about seller financing? Or do you?
Well, I always start with offer 1. You can ask them about seller financing when they reject offer one. There's no reason that you can't, particularly because if they don't have the money to pay offer one, or sorry, if they can't afford offer one because of their mortgage, then they're well, they might be able to afford the other ones. But during that conversation, when you ask them, what do you need out of the property to break even? They're going to have to tell you what their mortgage is, or at least give you a generalized idea of what they're needing out of it. If they don't want to talk about it, you can pull it up on PropStream as well. PropStream usually has information on any of the mortgages that somebody has. So, you know, if they're not wanting to share it for some reason because they think it's personal information or something, it's not. It's registered with the county that their home is in, so you can always pull the information on it.
Okay.
Now, with that being said, they may have more expenses associated with the property than just the mortgage. You know, they might have a second mortgage that's not registered or something from like a, I don't know, payday loan place or check cashing place or something like that. There can be other expenses that are going to make that higher than what it will show on PropStream. But yeah, they'll at least give you a general idea.
Okay.
If they tell you they don't want to tell you what the mortgage is, do not tell them that you can find the mortgage yourself. Like people tend to think that's an invasion of privacy, so you know, they get kind of stalkery. We don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, I'm finished.
All right. Well, everybody have a great night. Or guess great
night. He's going to bed now.
Sorry. Well, there's no windows in here, so I'm confused on what time of day it is.
You too, Marcus.
Just one other comment. Some of you, in your eagerness, have a tendency to talk too much.
That would be me.
I know. I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying you don't want everybody to see your whole part. You want to ease into it, be knowledgeable, gain as much information as you can. Okay, but if you tell them too much, then you lose your leverage.
Okay.
Yeah, let me clarify that. So you ask as many questions as you want in here, but when you're talking to somebody that's wanting to, you know, like a realtor or a homeowner or something, try to leave some dead air in the conversation. Let them try to fill in the blanks because they will give you more information and they'll tell you stuff that usually they wouldn't say. Humans find it extremely uncomfortable to have just silence without anything to latch onto to formulate the next response. So if you just pause for a second, you know, act like you're thinking or writing down notes or something, they will likely continue on to tell you more information about the property. And another way, ask open-ended questions more. It's like just, you know, instead of asking them, okay, when was the last time the roof was repaired for the house? Just ask them, has there been any updates to the house in the last 5 to 10 years? You'll get more or a wider variety of information out of that. And if you try to get hyper specific, like when was the roof redone? Has the porch been varnished or something? The more specific you get on that, the more agitated they will become, just because they don't want to feel like you're interrogating them. All right.
Okay.
So
good luck, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.
Have a great one.
Oh,
and
Bye, everyone.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, all that other good stuff to all of you. Okay.
Oh, you too, Hank, and everybody.